Hey guys, Joe here, and yes, it's been a long time since we've done one of these, but I finally have enough material and I was able to go ahead and arrange to do this video. So today we are taking a look at the IAI Hardballer. Before we get going, thank you so much to my subscribers. If you like these kind of videos, make sure to click that like button down below. Let me know that you're enjoying it so I can potentially do more like this one. If you have any other questions or would like to use my Amazon link, those are down in the description as well. Before we get going, you can see the slide is open. There is nothing in it. No magazine in the gun. So we can go ahead and drop the slide on a stainless steel IAI Irwindale Arms International or Incorporated Hardballer 1911. Now, some of you have probably heard the phrase hardballer in the movie The Terminator with Arnold Schwarzenegger, the first one. He uses a hardballer with a 7-inch slide with a big scope laser on it as well. And in the Hitman franchise, hardballers are renamed silver ballers. They're 5-inch guns usually with suppressors on them. This is a Hardballer 2, technically, because IAI wound up purchasing the assets of AMT. AMT is typically what you would normally see on the slide of these firearms. AMT was Acadia Machine and Tool, and it was a company founded, or it was a gun manufacturer founded because a gentleman wanted to see if he could build Magnum pistols. He created the Automag. The Automag 2, 3, 4, and 5. There are other videos on the internet. Yeah, I highly encourage you to check it out if you want to see the story. Well, in 1971 they went into business. In 1995 they basically had to sell all their assets to get out of a lot of trouble, and they sold them to Irwindale Arms Incorporated. Irwindale Arms only owned the company from 1995 to 1998, where it eventually went over to Galena. Galena produced the pistol until 2001 and officially shuttered their doors in 2002. What makes the Hardballer special is that it was the first all stainless steel pattern 1911s that were out there. There were guns out there that had a silver look to them, but they weren't stainless steel. They were usually polished steel. You will notice that this one has a very, very low serial number. This is from IAI's production line, but it's serial number 67, so that would infer, or I can infer from that, that this is a first year of their ownership gun. It's probably within the first few months, because they only built a couple of thousand during their time, but still, this is a double-digit gun serial number, and that's really cool. It didn't come with the box, it didn't come with the paperwork. I can get an AMT box off eBay for like $8, and I may do that just so I have at least an AMT hardballer case. The name hardballer comes from the 230 grain hardball ammunition that was used by the government. The GI Spec 45 was called hardball. Round nose hardball, you've probably heard both terms. And they did some interesting things. It looks like when IAI acquired the company, they really didn't change anything on the pistol. When Galena bought it, they actually put a beaver tail and a different rear mainspring housing on the guns. This is, in appearance, a factory pattern gun, and we're going to take a look at it. Pretty much 1911. I'm sure you could probably get a lot of these parts to interchange with a standard 1911. Although these are hand-fit guns, this one is extremely smooth. And it has no real oil in it right now. I don't know the last time it was fired. I bought it used, obviously, but it seems to be a very smooth slide. I'm actually a little bit worried at how light the spring is, so I may get a spring kit for it, but I want to go shoot it first. Let's look at the outside. IAI has a grip that's very similar to the AMD wraparound grip. Obviously, Pachmayr made a wraparound grip as well. It's actually very comfortable. When I first looked at the gun, I thought these were plastic and I was just going to put a set of hooks on here. The only reason I would take these off this gun is to preserve the medallion, to make sure that it doesn't get damaged or fall out. So I'm probably going to put my Hogue grips on this anyways, because I also intend to make a couple of changes to the pistol. But looking at the outside, you can see that Again, this was patterned in 1971 or started in 1971, and it has a lot of features on it that you still don't even see on some guns today. Like, it has an adjustable trigger, and even the earlier ones had adjustable triggers. You can see that screw down there, which allows you to adjust how far the trigger will travel before it stops, which is pretty dang cool. You can also see it has extended mag release and grip safety. It doesn't have a beaver tail. Again, Galena, when they bought it, added that, but it does have a skeletonized hammer. Normally it's just a spur. This one is skeletonized, and as you can see, it actually matches with this grip safety, so technically it doesn't need to be replaced to avoid hammer bite, but that's still, you know, an area of contention for me. One thing I'm noticing with this particular one, I haven't fully disassembled it. I did pop the top off to see what series it was, but if you look, it's very subtly not going all the way into safety because the hammer isn't coming back all the way. When it does, then it clicks right in. So I'm going to be taking the rear mainspring housing out and the grip safety anyway, so I'm going to check and see if maybe there's something wrong with the sear pin or with the spring on the back of the housing, because those are two things that are known to fail on this. Continuing to look at it, you'll see it's a mix of a polished slide with the almost unfinished look stainless. It's kind of cool. Some Colts had the same kind of style to them. I'm not a huge fan of it because it's actually quite dirty. I've taken the panels off and the coloring is different from what it should be, but not super bad. This does have a flat top on the slide. Again, something you don't even see in a lot of modern versions of the gun. Flat tops allow you to put serrations, and these serrations help with visibility in high noon setting kind of thing. When there's a lot of sunlight on the top of a slide, especially a polished or a blued slide, you can get a lot of glare. The sight picture, it's a very large flat blade rear sight, but it is fully adjustable for both windage and elevation. It's an Eliason rear sight, and as you can see, it kind of works its way all the way up into there. It actually maximizes the sight picture because a lot of sights actually sit up higher. This one is cut way down into the slide, bringing it all the way back, and it's pinned in right there. The front sight looks like it's pinned in inside the frame or the slide, and we'll see that when we take it apart. Otherwise, it's all standard 1911. This is a Series 70 gun. You'll see that when we take the top off. So it is not a Series 80, does not have a drop safety in it, which is another reason why that's a little disconcerting, because if the safety, I mean, it goes on enough, but it takes less effort to disengage the safety when it doesn't go all the way up because it's not clicking completely underneath the spring there. Again, once I fully disassemble it, we'll know what's going on with it. Let's go ahead and do a partial disassembly. I will show you that it does have a full-length guide rod. Some people like them, some people hate them. I'm not a huge fan of them. That's why I'm thinking about doing a spring kit and a half-length guide rod. To disassemble it, you have to push this bushing down. This is an older gun with a weaker spring, so as I said, it's actually easier to disassemble because of that. Slide your bushing over. You always have to be careful. Even though this is a weaker spring, you could still launch this thing across the room. But this is what I mean. This is a very, very weak spring, so I'm going to want to change that out for a much stiffer spring. Once you do that, you can slide your bushing over, take that off, disengage the safety, bring the slide back to your takedown. And there are some pretty pronounced idiot marks on here. There's nothing I'll ever be able to do about that because of the stippling that the natural stainless steel has. But now we can go ahead and take the frame from the slide. Just go ahead and pop out the guide rod, which is pretty easy. You do need to put the swinging link in the down position so that you can slide it out. And once you have the barrel apart, you will see that it is just a standard 1911 slide. There's nothing special in here, and since it's a Series 70 and not a Series 80, you don't have to worry about a drop safety. I have taken the firing pin out, and it looks like it's in really good shape, and based on the condition of the rails, I don't think it's had like thousands and thousands of rounds go through it, but it's definitely been used a little bit, which is fine. The only thing that does concern me is this may not be an original barrel. because hardballers actually have a two-piece barrel where it has a lining inside of a steel outer ring, and this one seems to be a single piece. It also has no markings for caliber, and it just seems like it's not 100% right to the gun. I have to do a little bit more research. Documentation is very sparse on the hardballers in general because obviously tech specs and things like that are proprietary, as well as the fact that since it changed names and company ownership so many times, I can't find all the exact information I'm looking for. It took me an hour and 20 minutes to figure out how long IAI actually owned the rights to the gun, for crying out loud. But yeah, typical swinging link Browning design, and that needs to be lubed up because it's very sticky. But again, there's no oil on this gun at all right now, so I have no idea the last time it was fired. It is a ramped barrel, which I prefer because it makes it easier to feed hollow point bullets into it, which is good. Taking a look at the frame, as I said, it seems to be in pretty good condition. It doesn't look like it's been overly abused. The rails here are nice and smooth. The ramp is a little bit rough. Same thing with the side of the rails here because it seems to be more of the unfinished stainless steel or unpolished stainless steel. So I am going to actually take a microfile, file those down so that they're smooth, which will aid in functionality of the gun. Over time, you can run into some galling issues with this stainless steel, so making it smoother will actually help with that in the long run. In terms of tooling marks, it's actually pretty minimal. There's some obvious ones down in there, but overall it seems to have been assembled really nicely. Even under the grip panels, it's not too nasty. This does have a raised or hump rear mainspring housing, and I'm not a fan of that. I prefer a flat mainspring housing. I thought I preferred this style, but this actually puts your hand, it pushes the base of your hand back, which pushes the web of your hand forward, which puts you in a slightly different hold. It's not a massive difference, but it's enough of a difference to make it feel kind of Beretta-y because of the way the grip now comes out and then back in. And it's not as comfortable as a flat mainspring housing. But yeah, as you can see, it field strips just like any other 1911. Now, one thing that I'm probably also going to change is the sear pin. I've read a couple of articles and another YouTuber actually talked about the fact that a sear pin breaking in here is actually a horrendous catastrophic failure, because if the sear pin breaks, it's going to reset the hammer every time the slide goes back, and with no drop safeties or anything like that, every time it cycles back, as soon as the slide comes forward, that hammer's coming with it. So it basically would turn this gun into an automatic fire weapon, and that would be very catastrophic and dangerous because you could really get hurt, you could hurt somebody else, and you can get into a lot of trouble. So yeah, I'm more than likely going to change that sear pin just to be safe, and since I'm going to be taking the whole gun apart anyways, I might as well. Reassembly, 1911, man. Take your barrel, slide it in, put your bushing in. I tend to do this in the wrong order. It's a lot less difficult if you put the bushing in first. Make sure your link is in the down position or up position when you're holding it upside down like this. Because it's a full-length guide rod, the guide rod has to go in before you reassemble it. Flip the gun over. Make sure there you go, guide rod is in the right position. Bring the gun back. Take your pin, put it in there. Bring back your notch here, and you need to push down as you're pushing up. Now, to avoid idiot marks, you want to start doing that as close to this pin as you can. So being careful with that slide stop is very important. It's hard to see on camera, but right here there's a big scratch in the polished area, as well as a matching scratch down here in the trigger guard area. That is because when they went to reinstall the slide lock, they missed. They didn't push it down correctly, and instead of going into the hole, it shot up over the top of the slide, scratching the slide. And down here, it's because they were putting in the slide lock when it was down here, and then sliding it up the trigger guard when they were lining it up. Don't do that if you don't want to scratch your gun. Once you do that, you can take your recoil spring and put that back onto the guide rod. Take your bushing, and I'm going to stand it up to do this because I really don't feel like launching this thing across the room if I can avoid it. Some guns have really tight ones, and that's because of the strength of the spring. This one, again, is very loose. We're good to go. So yeah, that is the IAI/AMT Hardballer. It's an interesting piece. It's a good looking piece, and once I change a couple of parts on it, in fact, let me grab the parts and show you what's going on the gun. I'm putting a Wilson Combat extended beaver tail and Wilson Combat flat main spring housing. So as you can imagine, it's going to completely change the look of the firearm. It always looks smaller when it's not on the gun, doesn't it? But yeah. Adding a little bit of color contrast will make it look a lot better, and then having the extended beaver tail will make it look a little bit more modern. Hopefully I won't have to do any real machining. It looks like it's pretty close. There may be a small gap here because of the shape of it, but I think we'll be okay. And then of course a flat mainspring housing. I may put the Wilson Combat magwell on here, but I'll only do that if I put the whole grips on it. I kind of prefer not to have it on there because I don't have enough magazines that actually can use the magwell, so that's kind of annoying, but we'll see. Yeah, that is the tabletop and field strip of the IAI Hardballer 1911. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Let me know down in the comments if you have one, what your serial number is. Maybe I'll kind of keep track of them. And I do intend to take this one out to the range and put 100 rounds through it, see if I really like it. If I like it, then I'm going to keep it. If not, I'm probably going to sell it on. You will be seeing some more tech and video game videos coming out this week, or upcoming in the next week, and I look forward to doing those as well. If you want to see me do a specific firearm, or if you want to even contribute to the channel to help me buy specific firearms, links are down in the description. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Again, like it, subscribe, use my affiliate links, tell your friends, and as always, I'll talk to you later.